down, you are going to see a submission box for the project, so you can put your presentations there. Okay. I forgot to open.
He uploaded the demo virus also.
Yeah.
You just want the PDF or the PowerPoint?
Presentation. Okay, with all the descriptions and everything, so I can refer to this. Okay, so that's it, I believe. Any questions about the exercises, electrical things, or stuff? No? Okay. Okay, guys, so let's start or continue. Yeah,
the question
is question or general one?
No, I mean general.
Okay.
Is the homework only the part we have to do at the bottom, or the whole thing? Like, it's not clear.
No, it's the whole thing.
Like, it says homework at the bottom, so
No, it's the whole thing, and you need, I think, the first
you need the whole
part
thing.
in
You need
order
to read it.
when at the beginning, like doing the ACL and SILIS, like you don't need to do that in order to do the question at the bottom.
Okay, so let me just check it out and come over.
Okay, and in the question 3, it says solve the 3 points for in the example. And how do we prove? How do we prove or we explain that we solved this? Like, I can do all the John the Reaper stuff and have nothing to do with the exercise. Like, how do I prove that?
Okay, so let's discuss the break. Okay. Okay, guys. So we are going to continue with the. Going to see it or? So let's continue with our fascinating lecture on cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And we are going to continue with vulnerabilities. And today's main subject is going to be buffer overflow. I'm going to say a few words about malwares. I believe you are familiar with malwares. Malware stands for?
Malicious.
Yes, malicious software, right? And we'll see what is malicious software. Before that, let me just open the. Are you familiar with this site?
Light Tracker 24. Number one most infected country.
Yes, so Russia
I'm familiar
is
with
the
Russia.
most infected country, and also I think it's number one in virus developing. So
Yeah,
it comes together.
Arigo and all that, and they're all believed to be from Russia.
Yes. So actually, this comes from Kaspersky.
Casper. Casper?
Yes, so it's from the antivirus company, and actually they collect information on attacks from all over the world and different kind of attacks, and map them. So you can check out the site and see for yourself that it's unbelievable. It's all like online attacks. It's so it's get updated each time, and you can see it in live if you want. So you see it's all over the globe, and Russia is number one.
Checkpoint also has some big ones.
Yes, I believe so. Check the site. See? Okay, so about malwares, which part of the computer is the most important one?
Well, if you ask engineers, they'll say the hardware, but
Okay.
we're computer scientists, so the software.
Okay, so actually it's the software that's the brain of the computer, because without it, it's like a pile of metal. So this is our point of view. It's most dynamic and powerful, and control all the parts of the computer, of course. So that's why. But the thing is, software has bugs. Why is that?
Because the humans design it.
The human factor, right? That number one reason, and why we make mistakes. Why is that?
We're bad.
We're tired, we're lazy.
Lazy, tired, unexperienced.
We did it. We got paid off. We did it on purpose.
Okay.
Once the very fabric of creation. Maybe they weren't using
Okay, so many reasons, but the main thing is the human factor. We are the reason, and the malwares are going to exploit these bugs. Okay, so we've got the bugs, and malwares are going to exploit these bugs, and you are going to find it on this kind of exploits on PCs, mobiles, networks, SCADA, okay, a small controller, and it's actually everywhere. So that's about it. And of course, the money issue is highly relevant, because it's going to cost a lot of money. The damage could be a huge one. Okay, you can see here it's a $600 billion industry. It's unbelievable. Okay, so let's start with our new friends, viruses, worms. Could you tell me what is the difference between virus and worm?
Worms spreads out in other computers. Worms can have viruses, but viruses cannot have worms.
Okay. But there is like a...
Do worms carry viruses?
Well, we don't know what worms are.
Okay. So actually worms, malicious softwares, when you download the worm to your computer, it starts to spread by itself. You know, so it knows a lot of vulnerabilities and how to exploit them, and should try all the ways, all the possible ways to spread, infect other computers or machines. Okay, and that's a worm. So it's active and
reproduces.
yes, and it reproduces. And the viruses, they are passive. So unless you click the file, nothing is going to happen, and they are not going to spread by themselves. So they are passive. Okay, both are going to cause a lot of damage to your machines, and what they are going to exploit. So there are many kinds of bugs. Memory management bugs. We are going to speak today about specific ones. Logical errors and race conditions. This is also something that I'm going to speak later. So just remember that it exists, and we will see soon what is the meaning of race condition. Okay. Okay. Before that, let's see a short movie that will show us how it, what is the malware, and what are the animals that crawl in a way.
The internet www, the World Wide Web, a world of unlimited possibilities. You can shop, book a trip to a sunny beach, watch movies, listen to music, take care of all your banking, and maybe even pick up a date for Saturday night. The internet has become an indispensable part of our daily lives, both at home and at work. And the rapid development of the internet is further reinforced by the spectacular surge in the number of internet users who have a high-speed internet connection via ADSL or cable. This is resulting in a growing number of people who are continuously online. The internet has indeed opened up a world of unlimited possibilities, but it has also brought a growing number of threats. Not only the proper use of the internet is growing, the misuse and abuse of the medium is also growing at an alarming rate. There are countless viruses and worms that use the latest tricks to force their way into your computer. They often get into your PC silently, without you even knowing they're there. But once they're actually in your PC, they can wreak horrific destruction. Your computer is like your home. Unwanted guests can break into your home or your computer at any time and in any way, often without you even seeing or noticing them. Emails, for example, can provide an entryway for viruses to penetrate your computer. You simply receive an email with an attachment that perks your interest. Your curiosity gets the better of you, and you open the attachment. And presto, the virus barges in and has unlimited access to every nook and cranny of your PC. These viruses are also experts at spreading and multiplying via all the addresses in your mailbox. But the emails aren't the only way that viruses get into your PC. Actually, every time you visit a website or download free music or video files, you can contaminate your PC with dangerous installations or downloads. But viruses can do much, much more. They are so clever that they wreak all this havoc entirely on their own. They don't need your help. All they need is your PC, and the rest takes place automatically. Worms, another group of nasty intruders, can also spread at devastating speed. Worms cleverly use the leaks in your computer programs, so they enter your computer whenever your PC is connected to the internet, even if you aren't at home. You could say that worms act as doormen, but the only problem is that they let in all kinds of unsavory characters that you would actually like to keep out. And if you could see them, you would be horrified at the riffraff that walks straight through the door. Yeah, like we said, they're ruthless intruders. Of all the intruders, bots are without a doubt the most ruthless. They install themselves on your computer, often with the aid of a virus or worm, and as it were, hypnotize your computer. From this moment on, you are the owner of a zombie PC. Once your PC is infected with a bot, it becomes part of a many-branch network of zombie PCs, all infected with the same bot, a botnet. It's annoying for you and dangerous for others, a breeding ground for criminal offences. From one central point, just one malicious person can order all the bots in the network to carry out the same task. For example, to paralyze a company's network or website. And they send more than 50% of all the spam sent worldwide. The repercussions of an attack by a network are obviously immensely greater, more effective, and more damaging than an attack from an individual PC. So if you don't protect your computer against bots, it can unwillingly take part in a collective attack of this nature. And while all of this is taking place, you probably won't notice a thing. Your PC will appear to operate normally, but behind the scenes it will be working overtime to carry out all kinds of undesirable activities. All of this paints a pretty discouraging picture, just when you were feeling so positive about the endless possibilities provided by the internet and your computer. But the good news is that it's not as complicated as it sounds. You can secure your PC by following just 4 simple rules. Rule 1. Install an antivirus program and update it regularly. Rule 2. Install a firewall. Rule 3. Install the latest security updates for your software and operating system. Intruders like the old versions. Rule 4. Don't open email attachments that you do not trust. Effective effective security starts with recognizing the culprits and installing the required security yourself.
So the only one who enjoyed okay, guys, so that's a short introduction to viruses and worms. Okay, so actually malwares are known, I think, from the 70s, but here it's from the 80s. Okay, the first one who wrote a virus is Fred Cohen. He was a student of Adelman, I think in MIT University.
Is he Jewish?
No.
He's a Christian boy.
Okay, so Cohen was a student of Adelman, and Adelman is part of, the group, the RSA with Adi Shamir, yes. So he was their student. You need to understand, you remember Stallman that I mentioned a few times with the open source and the founders of programming. So you need to understand that they were very naive. Yes, they didn't think about viruses. They believe in sharing and everything is available and the right to know and etc. But their students start to think about how to attack the system. So that's actually how the history of the viruses and how it started. So as I told you, types of malwares are the viruses which are passive propagation, requires user help. Worm, active propagation. Trojans it's an unexpected functionality. So you can download some editor or a picture or something, and inside these pictures there is a malicious software that could harm your computer. Okay, so that's a Trojan. And backdoors, it's an unauthorized access that programmers leave. Okay, so I think Ariel suggested to put that a programmer can put a way to get into the system or to harm the system. So that is actually the idea behind a backdoor. But know that backdoors could be also something that programmers could use in order to monitor the program or to get statistics or see how the program is functioning. So it's not necessarily comes from an evil intentions. So these are the two sides of backdoors. That's it. And I told you about bugs, and bugs could be very bad. Why is that? Of course, it's always because you know that cars could use softwares and machines that relate to medicines also are using softwares, and of course it's in space. So here you can see an example of Toyota cars. I think it was some kind of fuel injection problem, and it caused the cars to accelerate spontaneous acceleration, and 89 people died because of that. Okay, they got killed, and Toyota had to fix the bug, so it was a very big issue. Also, in a therapy machine, they increased the bug there. I think it was overflow bugs related to things that I will going to speak today. So it increased the radiation in 100% and caused 6 people to die also with overdoses. You can see that example. And also a space ship blown away. I think it's 40 seconds after the launch. It's exploded and cost $1 billion to the taxpayer. Okay, so. So you see, that's a bug that happens in machines without hackers, okay, without any malicious software to exploit them, but still they can happen. And these bugs are going to awake or start when the conditions are something that programmers didn't think of, okay? So we've got an extreme situation the programmers didn't took into account, and the bugs will awake, and this will cause a lot of damage or destroy things. Or you see here, it's life or money. So it's a serious thing. When we are speaking about vulnerabilities, in this course I'm going to show you some perspective of vulnerabilities, and one is related to the memory, and it's the subject of today, which is buffer overflow. And also I'm going to introduce to you SQL injection, and I believe there is a presentation on that. Woo!
Yeah, it is.
It's a good presentation, we can assure you.
Without enthusiasm, we are. I believe it's going to be a very.
The greatest presentation.
I'm gonna have to amp.
Okay, guys. So let's continue. So it's relates to incomplete input validation. Okay. So memory exploits, incomplete input validation. Also exploiting trust with XSS. You know what is XSS?
Cross-site.
Very good. And logic errors, integer overflows. I think I'm going to say something about that. And race conditions, which is also known as talk to, or time of check, time of use. You will see later. Okay. So buffer overflow is well known since the early 70s. It's got famous by the Morris worm. Okay, we shut down the internet. You can read about it. There is a link. And become widely popular after the legendary book by Levi, another member of the family, smashing we had Cohen, Levi, All the good guys, okay? So smashing, and it's called smashing the stack for fun and profit. And nowadays you will find a lot of lectures relates to cyber security, and it will start with something and end with for fun and profit. Okay, so that's how it's going. At least one lecture is going to be for fun and profit. Okay, and that's it. So use in many exploits. And you've got here an example for Code Red and Secure Slumberware. They all use the buffer overflow and cause a lot of damage, of course. And the most famous attack relates to buffer overflow is the stack overflow. We've got also the heap overflow, but I'm not going to speak about heap. I'm just going to concentrate on the stack. So let's start with the buffer overflow. You can see the code here, and just let me know what is the problem in the code.
You're writing to memory that wasn't allocated.
What?
You're writing to memory that wasn't allocated.
Maybe this is
That's true. So that's the thing, and we are going to write to a memory which is not allocated. The buffer size is 10, and we are trying to write to the location in the memory which is not allocated. So that's a problem. And what could happen when this code is running?
You could write onto memory that needed for the OS system.
Yes, so it can overwrite something, okay? It could be a user data or code, whatever, or something that relates to the system. But it also could do nothing, okay? So it's also an option. But you see there is an issue. There is something that we need to take into consideration, and let's see how to exploit the bug. So let's say we've got a buffer that contains the password and a flag which tell us if the password is correct or not. Okay? It's an abstract idea. Let's start with that, and then I'm going to get into the details. So what we could do relate to what I just showed you.
We can write onto the flag and
Yes.
change it.
Okay, so we can go to the flag and
Change it to be true.
and change it to be true. So let's say the buffer holds the value of 0 for fails. Anything else is true. Okay, so it's going to be true, and then we can change the value of the flag to true.
How do you find it? How do you find where it is?
So the idea is you don't know, but you can check. You can the system is going to get input from the user, right? So the user can change the input till he gets a result. Okay, so that's the idea in general. So that's an example for a buffer overflow and how to exploit it. But what attackers are actually looking for is code execution. Okay, not just to turn the flag from false to true. Okay. So in order to understand how to execute the code, let's try to understand how the virtual memory looks like. Okay, so we've got here an example for Linux machine, from a Linux machine, and the memory is going to look like that. it's a 32-bit machine with 4 GB. Here it's less, a bit less, because the OS is going to keep a part of the memory for itself, so that's why it looks like that. It's supposed to be FFFF, like 8 Fs, okay? You know hexa? Yes. Okay, the upper part of the memory is going to be used by the stack, okay? It's going to be allocated to the stack. We've got shared libraries, which are the system libraries, and every program could use these libraries. You can see here the arrows. The stack can grow down, and okay, the shell library actually they are almost constant, but if you add things, it will grow up. We've got the heap, which is a dynamic memory allocation. Okay, every time you use a new, you allocate memory, and it's actually will go to the heap. Okay, so that's for the dynamic allocation, and code and data are going to be at the bottom. Okay, so that's how the memory looks like in general. Could you tell me what is the ESP here? Pointer to what?
The end of the stack.
Yes, to the end of the stacks, not to it's like a thread pointer. Okay, so it holds the pointers of all the threads that run on the system. Okay, so that's correct. So that's in general how the memory looks like. It's the first time you see this diagram?
You did computer architecture, so it was a little similar.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
It was on like
very similar. Okay, so let's continue. And okay, so now we are going to concentrate on the stack, okay, over here. So that's what we are going to do. The stack is used for local variables. If you want to pass variables or argument between functions, we are going to use the stacks. Of course, it's a parent thread, and it holds the return address. And the thing is, in our computers, we've got the memory, and we've got also the registers. You know, what is the use of the registers?
We do calculations.
hold arrays of data.
What is the difference between the registers and the memory itself?
Registers are faster.
Yes, they are much faster, okay? So registers, they are much faster, but the thing is, when we want to run our own programs, the operating systems will prefer to give us a memory which is dedicated to our program, and it is the stack, okay? It's not the register, so don't get confused. So the stack is going to be the part of the memory that our programs are going to use. And when functions pass variables, values, and arguments, they can keep everything in the stack, and then after the program is done running, the operating system is going to erase everything, and we can start over, and that's how it works. Okay, so that's the general idea. Also, it holds the return address, and we will see soon what is the meaning of the return address. Okay. So let's look at it here. So here we are like zooming in the part of the memory that we call it the stack. Okay, it's a zoom in on the stack. Now you can see the stack. You see we've got the function. Yes, it's called foo. Foo is part of our main function, and it's got a local variable which is buffer. Yes, buffer is the local variable, and stack is going to get argument from main. Yes, main gets input from the user or whatever, and it's give it to foo. You see here we've got an integer that describes the number of arguments. Yes, we've got the variable which is the number of arguments in main. Okay, and we've got a pointer to our to the arguments that we get from the user, and we don't know the size, so it's going to change each time, and that's it. Okay, so that's the structure of the function that we are going to use. Let's look how it's supposed to run in the memory. Okay, so the upper part is relate to main, okay, of the stack. It's related to main. We've got the argv, yes, the argv1, the argument that main gives to foo, and also the return address. And what is the return address? You know what it's going to tell us?
The line that would appear under foo, that's what we would continue after.
Yes. Yes, so actually, after foo runs, the system needs to know where to continue from. Okay, so it is very important address, and in each running, the compiler is going to give this address to the function, and that's how it knows how to continue. Okay, so that's the idea. We've got the save registers, and these registers are something also that the compiler is using. It's not something that our function or software is going to use. It's something that the compiler is using in order to execute the functions properly. So we don't touch these registers. And the buffer, okay, buffer is the local variable that I told you about. Any questions about this structure? Okay. Okay, so far so good. Let's continue. Now comes the thing. If someone wants to exploit this structure, what is going to do? Thanks. Very clear.
Put in more than 16 characters in the string.
Yes, that's the thing. Okay, so if someone wants to harm this or exploit this system, he is going to enter more than 16 chars to the string, and the function gets a string from the user, and he can input something a larger string, and it's going to look like that. He's going to fill the buffer. Okay, so the first thing he's going to fill is the buffer. Then he's going to fill the saved registers. Okay, and the last thing that is going to run is the return address. Okay, and now we can see something which is very interesting. What's going to happen? What is going to happen to the system?
It won't
It can
know
either
where
cause a
to.
You
crash.
see here, he replaced the return address with something else. What is going to happen?
It's
They'll
going
try
to
to
be able
go
to
to
jump
the-
to that part of the system, whatever
Oh, the
line of
next
code
line
or
of
memory
code.
saved at that system. That's where the line is
And
going to
okay, most probably,
It won't
go. That can
exist.
either cause a crash to the entire program, or
You can
depending on what that line is. you
so
can, yeah.
most probable it's going to crash. Okay, the system is going to crash, and you see you can send the system to a location in the memory when there is nothing, there is no meaning to this place location, and the program is going to crash, and that's how to exploit the system. You can see that the compiler, yes, is going to instead of the 4 A's, is going to put some number, okay?
So it converts the
So
ASCII
it's
to
going to
text.
convert the A's to some extra number, and that's the location because he expects to get an address there, okay? So that's the thing, and that's how to smash the stack. Okay, any questions?
I know this is Linux, but on Windows, where the shared library would be like the DLLs.
Yes, so in Windows it's a bit different, but this concept is general, so you can adapt it. Same ideas. Okay. Another thing the user could do is look at the code here. What do you think? Think about this return address. Okay,
He could run another program.
You can execute code.
execute. Okay, so that's a bit advanced. Let's start with executing something else.
As in, if he knows of a known line of code, he could try to get the return address written to the address of that line of code, and cause that line of code to be executed.
Yes, so that's the idea. He could run again the buffer, the registers, and if he knows what is the location in the memory of a specific function, he could go straight to that function because it gives the return address to the compiler, and it's going to run. In this case, it's a shell code. I will say a few words later about shell code, but you can run something, some function, and it is a built-in function. Okay, it's part of the runtime C libraries. Okay, so that's the idea, and you see here we can skip straight to the function and run the function and get a shell access. Like hacking quiz, they like these shells because it gives a lot of privileges to the user, and that's the main idea of hackers. So you're going to encounter this shell a lot. Okay. Okay. So this kind of attack is called return to libc, and libc is the runtime C libraries that I just mentioned. Okay, so that's another way to attack. So we can crash the system, and we can get privileges from the system by exploiting a specific function. Okay, so that's another thing. The dream of hackers or malicious user is to run what? Their own code. Okay, so that's the dream, and in order to do that, they are going to again do the buffer overflow, but now they will try to get their code straight into the stack. Okay, so that's the goal. Again, they're going to crash to fill the buffer, the registers, and the return address is something that now they don't know, okay, because it's not part of a known function. Okay, you get the idea? Here they used a known function, okay, so they just exploited it. Now they will try to run their own function and actually to replace it with the main, okay? So they are going to run their own shell code. So it's not that easy. They know what are the boundaries of the stack, but they don't know the exact location of the running address. Okay, they don't know where it is. So how do you guess the exact location? You see, the running address is somewhere in the stack. It's something that they don't know because they don't use the developers' software. Okay, they now try to run their own code. So it's something else. So they need to guess where is the running address. So how they are going to do it?
To guess where the return address is?
Do they have to go through every single block of memory?
What?
Do they have to like run through like each block of memory so they actually get it?
Okay, so that's a difficult thing
I don't think in Windows you can because you have virtual addresses. You don't really know. Like the operating system only gives you like a fake address.
Okay.
But in like reality, it might start from somewhere else.
Okay, here you. So guys, actually, you don't know, and it is very hard. You can't guess, but you know what are the boundaries. Okay, you know what are the boundaries of the stack, and you know, and what you can do now. You can use NOPs. Okay, you know what are NOPs?
It's like shift
No
left
operation.
zero.
No operation, yes. So NOPs are not no operation, and it's called NOP slide or NOP sled. And before you put your code, okay, the shell code is written in which language? You know?
Language of whatever you're trying
PowerShell?
PowerShell sends Windows.
No.
It would be
Code, probably machine language.
Yes, which one?
Would it be?
Assembly, okay? So actually it's an assembly code, so you can put your knobs before your shell code, okay? And you put the knobs. The idea is that when you get to the return address, you will keep with to slide over the knobs, okay? Now you fill the memory, nops, 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 you fill the memory, but you've got now to the return address, okay? The nops are going to continue, okay? But nothing is going to happen because the return address will wait to something with meanings, okay? Till you get to what?
Shellcode.
To the shellcode. When it gets to the shellcode, now it's going to run or whatever inside, and you've got your privileges and you hack the system. Okay, so that's the idea of the nops, and it is going to help you to find the return address and then run your execute your code there. Okay, so that's the idea. Any questions about this kind of attack?
I guess if people have like different computer architectures, so could assembly be in different
Yes.
languages? So you need to
different, and you will need to put your code or construct a specific.
So to only be able to target a specific architecture of computer.
No, you just learn a different assembly
Yes,
language.
No, but
just
do you
need
wanna
to see what is the machine is running and adjust your code. Okay, and that's the so that's the thing. So I just showed you how buffer overflow looks like, and gave you some examples. And I told you that the main goal is to get your shellcode running. And what is dangerous with buffer overflow? So you can imagine it can be done remotely. Okay, the attacker can inject their own code and run it on behalf of the program. You see, if we are speaking about open source, it is easy to find these bugs. Why?
So a lot of people look at the code and reverse it.
Because the code is available. Okay, we've got the code. That's it. Okay, so that's for Unix systems or machines. If we speak about Windows,
100 bugs.
what?
A lot of bugs.
A lot of
Security
bugs,
is
that's
great.
true, but how we discover these bugs?
It's usually the people that work in Windows at Microsoft.
Okay, so that's true. Microsoft developers, they actually stole the code and published it. So as you can see, nothing is protected, and you cannot obscure your code, of course, as I also already told you. And also, you can do reverse engineering, and it's called binary reversing, okay? And maybe you will take a course, there is one here. Okay, so that's a method. And also, a method that called, which is called fuzzing, and actually feed the system with everything you got till you get something from this system. Okay, you eventually you're going to find some vulnerability, and you could exploit it. Okay, so that's another thing. I'm going to mention bugs later on, and you will see that there is like actually you can get paid by finding bugs. Okay, and it could be if it's like a huge bug, yes, something which is a 0-day bug. You will get a lot of money if you find it. Okay, So that's the thing, and I'm going to mention it's later on. Okay, so how to protect. So we've got several ways to protect the system from bugs, but now let's concentrate on the stack itself. So let me know how to protect the stack from buffer overflow. I just showed you how the attack looks like. Now tell me how to protect. What do you think? What would you do? But relates to the stack. Don't think about.
Have like a backup of it.
Or put something in the application stack that's empty.
What you're going to put? Something.
Something, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Try catch block.
What?
Using try catch blocks.
Catch box.
Try catch.
Okay. And
Which like could be an exception, so it won't go to the other place. It just catch the
Okay.
exception there.
okay, so actually, what nowadays compilers use is a canary. You're familiar with the bird canary?
Oh, it's a canary in a coal mine.
What?
It's a canary in a coal mine.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Exactly right.
So could you tell us what is the purpose of the canary in coal mine?
I mean, once upon a time they used to send a canary into a coal mine before sending people, the workers down. And if they died down there, the workers knew not to go.
Okay, and they could die from what?
Lack of oxygen.
Yes. What could suffocate them?
Poisonous gases.
Yes, gases. Okay. So actually, what they did, they not just put the canary before they entered, they also put the canary while they worked in the mine. Okay, and if the miners noticed that the canary died, they knew that it is a gas leak, and then they had to run for their life. The thing is, here the canary is going to alert, okay? It's going to alert us that there is a buffer overflow. The canary actually is a random sequence, okay? That the compiler give to the address right after the buffer is ended. We need to tell the compiler to use canaries, but now I think now it's a default thing. In exercise C, we get to understand it better. Okay, so that's the canary.
How does it, like, what does it do? It's a random sequence.
So if the compiler see that this random system is run down by other sequence, it knows that it is a buffer overflow. Okay, because he expects to get this sequence and not another number. Okay. Okay, so it helps to verify if there is a buffer overflow or not. Also, you could put zeros or EOF, you know what?
End of file.
Yes, end of file. You can put them inside the canary sequence, and now even if the attacker, what the attacker could do, actually?
You copy it and then.
Yes,
back.
you could. Let's say you could find out what is the random sequence part of the code that is injecting. Yes, of the string that is giving to the function, and then continue with the attack. Now, if you're using 0 or EOF, what will happen?
Program will stop.
The program will stop, okay? It will not continue, so it's again going to help us protect. Please note that a few things. If it is an old code, it's going to be very hard to convert the code or reprogram everything, okay? So the canary will not be an option. And also it's not going to protect from heap overrun, and that's another issue, but it's not related to the stack, but it is related to the memory, so keep that in mind, okay? So that's the thing. Any questions about the canary?
Why do you want to show canaries?
Okay, so I just showed you one aspect of protecting. Another way to protect is to use a non-executable stack. Okay, so the thing is that we inserted into the stack, we gave the function strings, right? Data. And the compiler interpreted the data as
an address.
As a comment, right? Yes, the address is something. It's like it told the compiler to do something. Okay, like the return address. Okay, so instead of a sequence of A's, it's translated to some address and it went to the address. Now we can use a design which tell us that the stack is a non-executable code. Okay? You cannot execute commands on the stack. That's the thing. But you see, there is a catch. Okay? I think you know what is the catch because I already mentioned it. But there is a catch. So that's one thing, and all major operating system support it. You can also tell the compiler that if it is a data, it stays data. It don't interpret the data and execute as a command and execute things. It's going to stay as data and cannot become executable. And that is another way to protect. That way, you don't need to rebuild the code because you're just going to use the new designs of the memory. Also, in iOS, they are using code signing. Okay, so it is going to get executed only if it's signed by a certified programmer, okay, of okay, so that's the thing. And if there is a backdoor or something, it's going to be.
You'll know who did it.
Yes, I'm going to know who did it. Okay, I'm going to
or who leaked the
know
keys.
who is responsible for the backdoors. Okay, so that's the thing. Still, you see that if we are speaking of JavaScript, when the environment is dynamic and the code can be generated in runtime, then it's hard to sign the code, okay, because everything is dynamic, so that's could be an issue. And as I told you, it's not going to protect us from return to libc. You remember the libc attack? What is the libc attack?
So we have it. So we return to a known address in code, which was bin/sh, and that way we have the return address. We don't need a no. So we have it run in the shared library.
Okay, so actually in the libc attack we used what?
We don't use our own code.
What?
We don't use our own code.
No, it's not our own code, but it is.
So that we
Sure.
know about that exists within the computer.
What?
The computer's code, operating system's code.
Yes, the runtime library, runtime libraries. Okay, so that's what we are going to use. We are going to use built-in functions. Okay, so that's the return to libc, and it's not going to protect us from return to libc. Okay, so now I told you. I gave you some aspects of protecting, and we stuck with the return to libc, and to protect from return to libc. What could you do? What is the solution?
We put in a place that the hackers don't know where it is or how to get to it.
They will get it eventually. Okay. Another suggestions? How to protect, okay? So now I showed you how to protect the stack. Then I showed you how to protect also the stack, but from the designer, to use a different design of the stack. Now we want to protect from return to libc. And libc is libraries. So how to protect?
Spread out the libraries all over the place.
Okay, so it's something like that. We are going to shuffle the libraries, okay? And that way, the attacker is not going to know which function relates to a location, a specific location, and is not going to execute that function because they don't know the location. It's all shuffled, okay? So that's the idea. It called ASLR, or Address Space Layout Randomization, and it's a way to protect, but still there are way to attack the system.
Could they still use
Now it's
fuzzing?
shuffled, okay? So
They
what?
could still use fuzzing,
And
so
then they could at this point use brute force. If it's shuffled, they can still use brute force to follow.
Yes, that's true. So we can go over all the options. Of course, nothing is totally random. For 32-bit system that I just introduced to you, you will need 256 tries, and then you break it. So it's actually quite easy. Also, if you want to implement this idea, you will need to code recompilation, and it's going to be another easy to implement. Okay, so that's the idea of ASLR, and ASLR is a solution for libc attack, return to libc attack. Okay, so that's the okay. Any questions about the return to libc? No. Okay. Another way to protect. Okay, so now we looked on specific ways to protect the stack, but could you think about another way? Actually, it's not really fair, but let's try it. How to protect from buffer overflows.
So
And
there are specific functions that protect from buffer overloads that don't allow copy. if they
Okay,
don't
okay,
exist.
very good. So we can use safer functions. Okay, that's true. Could be. But what is like the main reason that we've got buffer overflows?
We don't have enough memory. We don't have
The main reason, like what is the
as
main,
in it's too small. It's not enough memory. So what if we increase memory?
not related to memory? What is the main? How, like, where it comes from?
The assembly code, meaning that it's very easy.
Assembly is something that you run. So it's,
Yeah.
it's not a.
You mean binary? The source of the binary?
What is the source? Yes. What is the like the main reason? The main reason that we've got this overflow. It relates to what?
Just eliminate space.
We don't know how much memory is allocated to the variable.
Okay, why we don't know? Why is that? Why we've got this all the problems with the memory and why? Yes, because we are using C and C++. Okay, so that's the reason we are using a language that allows us to exploit it. Actually, give us the option. Okay, so if we instead use safer languages like Sharp C, Java, Python, and Rust, it's also a new version of a new programming language. They are going to check the boundaries for us, and since they are like high-level programming languages, they are going to protect us from all the bugs in the memory that I just showed you. But what is the problem? There is no free lunch. There is no like. What is the problem with the?
Well, you need to rely on their garbage.
What?
Well, for Java, at least, you rely on their garbage collection, so it's not as efficient.
Okay.
Meaning that
It's not as efficient. So why is that? Why?
because everything is pretty much
Why
allocated.
to use C? Why still we are using you learn the C?
What if your
So
job-
it's
what if your
relevant,
job
right?
needs-
It's not.
What if in your job you need to use?
What?
If in your job you need to use C, then you don't have a choice.
Why we use C?
Yes.
It's like low level programming. So
Because
the memory-
still it's a low level.
Direct
program.
access to
If you want
pointers.
to
Optimize.
work, yes, to optimize, to work much faster, you will need the C. Although Rust is supposed to be fast, I don't think it's in the level of C, but still it's fast. Python is using C.
What?
Python.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are many libraries in Python, especially math libraries. Okay, that Python uses, and they are all in C. Okay, so C is totally relevant, but still, if you can use high-level programming languages, and of course they are going to protect, but there is no way to avoid totally C, so as I told you, due to performance reasons, C could be the only option. And there's still lots of useful code running in native C and C++, as I just mentioned in Python. And on many embedded devices, you can only run
Like Parzel and all that stuff. They use C in the.
yes, because it accelerates the performance of the functions. Okay, another way to prevent buffer overflow. Oh, guys, so it's almost 4. Let's take a break and.